This is Cody Parks reporting for KMSA Video. My guest today is Ryan Stringfellow. The former executive director of KAFM and Mesa State Alum sat down with me to talk about Mesa State, working in the media, and the KAFM fundraiser Zombie Prom.
All right, so what has been your experience with the radio and mass communications field in general in the Grand Valley?
I moved here in 98, 97, and I work for a little sign shop uptown, still around, called Bud Signs. And we listen to radio all day, and for the most part we listen to KMSA. And I started listening to shows that I really liked, and there was actually a show that a student did. Her name was Mary Labadie, and she played a lot of music that I had never heard anywhere else. She played a lot of jam bands, Love and Fish, and then a lot of kind of, AAA indie music at the time, like Cat Power, Guster, artists like that. I was really into it, so I started not really stalking her, but like I would listen every week. I would call in, and there came a point where she said, "Hey, I made a mixtape for you," and I went down there and I got to see the studio, and so we started trading music, and then eventually she trained me to do radio at KMSA, even though I wasn't a student. And there was a Wednesday night reggae show at the time that DJ Loopy did.
I know Loopy well.
And I started filling in for him without the reggae accent. And then KMSA had to tighten up, and people that worked students couldn't do shows anymore. And that was about the same time that KAFM started up in '99, and they needed volunteers to do radio shows. And so I jumped in with that crew, and I've done a radio show since.
Excellent. So it's fair to say that you got your beginnings in radio like a lot of people, kind of unofficially just kind of fell into it and found a love. That's awesome. You were formerly the executive director for the local public radio station KAFM 88.1. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience there and how your time at Mesa State helped to prepare you?
Yeah, I've been a volunteer at KAFM for 6 years before I went back to school. I went back to school in 2003, and I decided to go to Mesa State. I realized that I lived here long enough, I knew enough people that it was just comfortable and safe to go to Mesa State and not start over in another community. So I originally majored in psychology or education, and then I started doing a show again at KMSA. And my first show at KMSA, I played a spoken word track by Saul Williams that was extremely political.
Right.
And all of a sudden I got a phone call from this guy that said he's the faculty advisor. Pull that off the air right away. And I was like, who are you?
Right.
I don't, what? And so he came into the studio, and it was Regis Tucci.
Right.
And we had a pretty heated discussion. We agreed to disagree.
Right.
And then we became fast friends. He actually recommended, why don't you change your major to mass comm? And at the time, I kind of blew him off. And towards the end of that first year, I realized that the majors I had chosen were kind of indentured servitude in a way, and I wanted to be in and out of school in 3 years. And so I looked at the program sheet for mass comm. I realized I already have this skill set. I'd like to learn all of this, and this is way more hands-on, interactive than anything else that the college offers. So I changed my major to mass comm. Had to do an internship, chose KAFM, and then kind of worked myself into a job. After I was intern, there was an opening for a program director position there. And so I jumped on board with that. I was program director for a couple years, and then became the station manager, and then the former executive director left. And so I lobbied to become the new executive director, and I've done that over the last 3 years.
Excellent. So aside from some Mesa State stuff, tell me a little bit about DJ Stringfellow and what he does, who he represents, the type of music he's into, and some of the gigs that he's got playing or that he will be playing in upcoming events.
Okay. DJ Stringfellow has been an evolution from being a radio DJ to an electronic music DJ. And even now still, there's almost an identity crisis, because I still do radio shows as DJ Stringfellow. And my radio shows are usually in the morning, and I play a good like Americana indie rock mix. And then being a live DJ, an electronic music DJ, play a lot of. I like to specialize in mashups. They're fun. They're people can connect to them, instantly. I like to play around with a lot of dubstep, a lot of breaks, a lot of funky house, and actually over the last couple months I've been learning a lot more about dirty house. You actually at No Coast said, play some dirty house, and I was like, I wouldn't say I actually could name an artist as dirty house, but I'm going to figure that out. So since then I feel like I've really branched out. I love performing here in the Grand Valley. I'd like to perform outside the valley. I'd like to go to a bigger club in Denver, Salt Lake, and get totally humbled. Just get annihilated, because that's the only way that I learn. So I'm always looking for those opportunities. And DJ Stringfellow is starting to look at more entrepreneurial activities of, doing more parties, maybe doing some weddings, even though that's very different than the art form of electronic music DJing. But you gotta pay the bills as well.
Tell us a little bit about Zombie Prom and DJ Stringfellow's involvement with that, as well as KAFM.
Zombie Prom was an evolution of these dance parties we did that evolved out of a late night electronic show that I used to do called the Agape Experiment. And KFM has semi-annual fund drives where we change programming and pretty much live ask people to call in and renew their membership. And the late night shows historically really didn't raise that much money. And so myself and a couple other DJs that were DJs at KAFM, Professor Skywalker and the Warrior One, realized we need to find a way that people can interact more with fundraising. And maybe people that listen to late night radio aren't able to give $60, $100 a pop, but maybe they can give $5 or $10. So we started converting the whole upstairs of the KFM facility for just one night into a big dance party. Had an open bar, had a bunch of DJs, had fire dancers outside. And we did that for about 3 fund drives, so a year and a half, before we realized, wow, we're putting way too many people up here. Actually, at one point, the floor, you can feel the floor go up and down. And we realized we need a bigger venue, and we maybe need a different theme. And so, I'd like to say that Zombie Prom was like this amazing idea that was totally original, but it really wasn't. When I sit down, when I do an event, the first thing I do is I start with a poster, even before I know what exactly the event's going to be. And when I do poster design, I go to Google Images to get ideas. And I was playing around with some, different ideas, zombie, pirate, ninja, robot, and so I looked at these different pictures and I saw a poster for the original movie, I think came out in 1962, called Zombie Prom. And I'm like, Zombie Prom? And then I saw posters for actual zombie proms that happen in Philadelphia and San Francisco. And so from there, I thought, what a great way to have a theme. It's in October. It gets people ready for Thanksgiving. It's the ultimate mashup event of zombies and, a formal prom.
Right.
And that's really where it evolved from. And now we finished our second Zombie Prom. We had to move to a bigger venue. We went to the Mesa Theater. You got to be a part of it as a DJ. We had, I think, 9 DJs, which is really incredible. Got to involve a lot of other folks in the community, and it was a really successful event for KFM. I think we raised almost $4,000 in just one night of dancing and being scared.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, well, last question, I think, just kind of wrap this up for us is, if there's one piece of advice that you could give future professionals in the mass communication field, media professionals, etc., what would that be, and why would you say that?
I would say the best thing about the mass communications field at Mesa State is it gives you so many opportunities for hands-on learning. You still have to take classes that are theory and conceptual, but where else can you go through a program where you can actually write articles for a newspaper, where you can actually do video production and do editing, do filming, where you can actually do radio, where you can actually build a website, where you can actually learn design and create posters and logos for different organizations. I would say take advantage of those hands-on classes, because those skills, all of those skills, are still hard to come by out in the modern world. People are always looking for a designer. They're always looking for somebody to build a website. They're always looking for somebody to do video production. Because of the nature of those mediums, they're not completely accessible to everybody. So it's a specialized skill that I would say learn it, develop it, and never let it go.